खुशामदीद नाजरीन, आप देख रहे हैं प्रोग्राम नुक्ता ऐतराज। मैं हूं शहजाद रजा। आज हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं पाकिस्तान में तैनात अफगानिस्तान के सफीर जनाब उमर जखीवाल साहब। हम उनसे बात करेंगे मुख्तलिफ इशूज पे। थैंक यू वेरी मच मिस्टर एम्बेसडर फॉर गिविंग अस टाइम। Let me begin with a very simple and straight and direct question. Do you know where Mullah Fazlullah is?
We don't know. If we knew where he was, he will no longer be operating.
From Afghanistan.
Whether he's from whether he is in Afghanistan or Pakistan. If he's in Pakistan, of course, you will get him. If we know where he is in Afghanistan, then we will get him.
But a few days ago, you made a statement and you discussed the possibility of a joint operation against Mullah Fazlullah, which means that you were saying that Pakistani forces or Afghan forces, they could jointly conduct some operation against that militant wanted by Pakistani government.
Jointly cannot be done. If it is joint, certainly Pakistani forces cannot operate on our soil. Our forces cannot operate on your soil. What I was suggesting is that there should be close cooperation in sharing of intelligence and between the intelligence agencies and also security agencies, and that if, for example, as we've done it before, we do find traces of TTP leadership on our soil, we've taken action. If with respect to Mullah Fazlullah, we'll do the same. And on this side, if we share information with respect to the Haqqani network and other Taliban leaders, that Pakistan does the same.
So, but you are not sure about the location of that specific militant, but you have doubts that he is operating from your soil.
We don't know. Certainly there are lots of area in Afghanistan that's not under our control, and if it was under our control, even the Taliban will not be operating. But yes, in the past there have been TTP leaders. They've been targeted in Afghanistan by our forces and have been eliminated. So that shows that some TTP leaders after the Zabi Azab operation did cross over.
So you don't deny outright the information or the statements by the Pakistani government that Mullah Fazlullah and certain other militants belonging to Pakistan, they are using Afghanistan's soil, of course, without the consent of the government.
Of course. This is absolutely a possibility, and like I said, there's been proof already by the actions that we've taken against the TTP elements who've already been eliminated. For example, the culprits of the Peshawar Army School did operate out of Afghanistan. We did take actions against them. Some were apprehended and handed over to Pakistan, and some were eliminated on our soil.
So when you say that not entire territory of Afghanistan is under control of Kabul, when you say that, would you like to specify that how much area the forces, for example, Taliban or the other militants, they right now capturing at the moment?
It's difficult for me to say, and I do not want to get into how much, but there is a significant area that's not under our control.
Many people suggest that more than 50% of the area.
That's exaggeration, no doubt about it.
Would you like to correct them?
Well, I certainly say that's an exaggerated claim. Out of the 34 provinces, capitals are under our own control. Out of close to 400 districts, it's only about 30 district centers that are in control of Taliban. Now you do the calculation in the math.
When the next elections are due, you think that there is a possibility that Taliban would become a political force instead of a violent force?
It's difficult to predict, but the doors are open for peace in reconciliation towards Taliban. The doors are open for inviting them to become part of the political process of the country. We do hope they do take advantage of those opportunities, and instead of violence, they opt for, again, political opposition, and even come in. If they win seats, then they will be part of the government as well. So that's our hope. But whether that will be realized by 2019, we don't know.
Don't you think, Mr. Ambassador, it's a responsibility of Ashraf Ghani's regime or your government that they should keep all the people on board? Because Taliban in Afghanistan, they are people of Afghanistan.
Yes.
And they, of course, you can take action against them, but instead of eliminating, do you think the major or prime responsibility lies with the government?
We haven't declared war on the Taliban. The Taliban have declared war on the government. It's us who is asking them to join peace. It's not as if Taliban have announced peace and we've rejected it. It's the Taliban who so far rejected the peace offers by the Afghan government. So the Afghan government has exercised its responsibility.
What is the level of negotiation or the level of contact you are maintaining with the Taliban leadership at the moment?
I cannot discuss those information.
Okay. And there are other countries like China, Russia. I believe that they are also playing a role to,
Yes.
sort of strike a deal between the government and the Taliban leadership. So you think those efforts are working in any way?
Whoever can play a constructive facilitating role, we welcome it. Whether it's China, whether it's Pakistan, whether it's some other country, we certainly welcome it. So far, of course, those efforts have been made. We cannot really show the result for it, but we hope that they do bear fruit.
But Pakistani government, the kind of leverage they used to have on Taliban before and soon after 9/11, you think that that leverage still exists or no?
We do believe that there is significant influence in Pakistan. Certain Pakistani institutions do have over Taliban. It's debatable to what extent that is, but we do believe that...
When you say this, Mr. Ambassador, you say this on the basis of information or analysis?
Both.
Both. You have the information and you have the analysis.
We do have the analysis.
Because Taliban, when they were in power, they refused to hand over Osama bin Laden to Pakistan or America, and they refused to listen to Pakistan. And many other...
आपके लिए चलते हैं। इस वक्त स्पीकर कौमी असेंबली सरदार अय्याज सादिक मीडिया से गुफ्तगू कर रहे हैं।
ये आप क्या परवेज मुशर्रफ साहब की बात कर रहे हैं कि कहाँ चले गए परवेज मुशर्रफ साहब? मियां साहब आप भी जानते हैं।
मैं 2 दिन के लिए लंदन गया था और वहाँ 2 ऑपरेशन बेगम साहबा के हो चुके थे, तीसरा अब फिर हुआ है और वो 3 दिन शायद अस्पताल में रहीं और अब उनको कल छुट्टी मिली है। तो ये जैसे ही इंशाअल्लाह मरहला ख़त्म होगा तो नवाज शरीफ साहब यहाँ पे होंगे और हर चीज़ फेस करेंगे इंशाअल्लाह। मियां तेरे जानिसार, मियां तेरे जानिसार। देखें, कायद तो जमात के नवाज शरीफ साहब ही हैं। इलेक्शन रिफॉर्म बिल नेशनल असेंबली में पास किया और नेशनल असेंबली में तकरीबन यूनानिमस हुए हैं सारी क्लॉजेस। सेनेट से भी अब हो गया है। अब ये हमारे पास वापस कौमी असेंबली में आएगा जो शिकें अमेंडमेंट्स सेनेट ने की हैं और वो इंशाअल्लाह मुझे यकीन है कि हमारा इजलास चंद दिनों में होगा। उसके बाद ये इलेक्शन कमीशन के ऊपर जिम्मेदारी होगी जो तब्दीलियां आई हैं ताकि वो अपने स्टाफ को ट्रेन कराएं और स्टाफ के अलावा वो प्रोमिसेस को भी ट्रेन कराएं, क्योंकि ये एक अहम नहीं, ये तो जो हो गई है ये इलेक्शन रिफॉर्म की हो गई है। इसके अलावा कौन सी तरमीम होती क्या वो तो नेशनल असेंबली में आके पता चलेगा। मगर देखें, लीडर हमारा एक ही है, लीडर नवाज शरीफ साहब है और उसके बाद शहबाज शरीफ साहब हैं और ये फैसला कायदीन करेंगे कि अब हमने लीडरशिप किसको देनी है या, मगर अभी तक तो लीडरशिप नवाज शरीफ साहब के पास है। नहीं, नवाज शरीफ साहब ने मशवरा किया था और ये मैं भी उस मशवरे में शामिल था जब उन्होंने मशवरा करके शायद खाकान साहब का नाम उन्होंने तजवीज़ किया और फिर शहबाज शरीफ साहब का। शायद खाकान साहब ने तो ये भी उस मीटिंग में कहा था कि किसी और को बना दें, मुझे कोई एतराज़ नहीं, और सबका यही ख्याल था। मगर प्राइम मिनिस्टर शाहिद खाकान साहब की कारकर्दगी इतनी अच्छी है और शहबाज शरीफ साहब की सूबे में इतनी अच्छी है कि इस वक्त उनको छुड़वा के वहाँ ले जाना, तो ये जमात का फिर ये फैसला रहा कि नहीं, शहबाज शरीफ साहब यहीं रहेंगे और शाहिद खाकान साहब वहाँ पे इस्लामाबाद में काम करेंगे बतौर वजीर आज़म।
अयाज सादिक स्पीकर को बताते चलें कि लाहौर में स्पीकर कौमी असम्बली सरदार अयाज सादिक मीडिया से गुफ्तगू कर रहे थे। उनका कहना था कि मेरे मुंह से बार बार वजीर आज़म मोहम्मद नवाज शरीफ निकलता है क्योंकि ये दिलों के मामले हैं, इनको तोड़ना इतना आसान नहीं। बेगम कुलसूम नवाज की सेहत के हवाले से भी उन्होंने आगाह किया मीडिया को और उनका कहना था कि बेगम कुलसूम नवाज की सेहतयाबी के बाद मोहम्मद नवाज शरीफ वतन वापस आ जाएंगे और उनका कहना था कि लीडर हमारा मोहम्मद नवाज शरीफ ही है और इनके बाद मोहम्मद शहबाज शरीफ और कायदीन ही ये फैसला करेंगे कि पार्टी की सदारत किसको सौंपी जाए। ये थी पीटीवी ताज़ा तरीन। मजीद अपडेट्स के लिए आप साथ रहें।
Regarding the presence of unwanted elements in Afghanistan soil, whether it's India or be it other any terrorist organizations,
we have been shared information from time to time with respect to Pakistan's concerns. We've taken it seriously. I've engaged the highest authority in my country, which is the president. Immediately after that, we have responded back to this. And so far, the information that some of the serious information we cannot really share with you, but that has been shared. We have responded back to Pakistan.
and have you taken action on the basis of that information?
The information has turned out to be not correct. That is what has turned out to be.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, when you generalize things, I'm very sorry to say that information was not correct. To which extent information was not correct? Because this is an ongoing, a procedure that every day you get information from the Pakistani institution, and if you say that information wasn't correct, so one day that wasn't correct, or the entire information so far given to you wasn't correct?
In most cases, the entire information is inaccurate. And like I said, we've even invited Pakistani institutions to come and visit. For example, certain area that their information said was probably a facility run by Indians against Pakistan. Yeah.
So do you think it's a wise and nice idea to invite Pakistani delegation to visit any part of Afghanistan, and once they see with their own open eyes, they would understand?
Of course, we need.
Is it a wise idea?
Absolutely, it is. We need to interact bilaterally. We do need to interact regularly. We do need to be open and candid with each other. There's a lot of misperceptions between the two countries, and those misperceptions needs to be corrected.
And who is responsible for those
misperception? The lack of engagement is responsible for that. The more we engage, the more we talk, the more we open and candid.
Why don't we engage too much?
Well, it's the nature or the way things have unfolded. And that is how it has been, and that's what my job as the President's Special Representative as well as Ambassador is, to promote that bilateral engagement. To a certain extent, we have.
Is it because of the historical background the two countries share? Because Afghanistan, when Pakistan got independence, so we had a patchy relationship, and there are certain areas in Pakistan which you claim that were part of Afghanistan and should be handed over to.
I think that has to do with it. But if you go to history, there's a lot more positivity in the history. I mean, Pakistan was created in 1947, but the people of the two countries existed for millennia, right? And most of that relationship, if we describe it, has been positive. And the people-to-people relationship has always remained positive. At the end, what matters is people-to-people relationship. Even after the creation of Taliban, even though the politics between the two countries were not good, the institutions were not good, people-to-people relationship was excellent. And till this day, that people-to-people relationship has been excellent. So when we talk about history, let's talk about the history of the two people. And that history is a very positive one. Again, a lot of commonalities we have, a lot of shared values we have, historical icons we have, and in a common religion, a common language, and all that we have. So it should be, the relationship should be more based on those positive and common dimensions that we have. But instead, unfortunately, we based it more on the negativities, and that's where we have been derailed from a very positive path.
Coming back to the previous question which I asked you, that you think it's a good idea to invite the delegation from state institution to another country if you have doubt. For instance, if Pakistan has doubt, and Pakistan, the Americans, they were accusing Pakistan of something. So what Pakistan did is they invited certain key senators, including Senator John McCain, to the tribal area. They went there, they visited the place, they saw from their own eyes, and later on they gave the statements that, well, we have seen the area and the Pakistani government succeeded in flushing out the militants from those territories.
I think what we need is a more regular and in the field verification and monitoring of things. I think just a day-to-day visit by a certain senator here or there will not do the job.
So you don't endorse Senator John McCain's statement?
Well, that doesn't really, the conclusion by just a visit of an individual at that high level could not really be conclusive. So what we need is a more sort of regular permanent arrangement between the two countries, at least for the start, to put us on a path that we do trust the words of each other, verifiable actions taken against our enemies on your soil, your enemies on our soil, that will put us on a path, and then of course we will get into a situation that we don't even need to verify. We will believe each other's words. Right now we are not at that stage yet.
You blame Pakistan that Haqqani Network and other militant organizations, they are operating and using Pakistani soil and taking action against the Afghanistan government, using the bombers and other stuff for creating instability and sabotage in Afghanistan. But at the same time, Pakistani government has certain reservations and accusations, and especially in Balochistan.
Yes.
Many people arrested from Balochistan, they claim that they were getting training in Afghanistan. Even if we agree that they were not getting training by agreement or consent of the Afghan government, but at least other elements using Afghan soils, they were training those people, sending those people, and again you admitted that people who conducted this APS attack, they operated from Afghanistan. So you think who is more responsible to correct this situation?
We both are. We both are. Well, let's say who is equally. We are a country that's more at war. We are a country that suffers way more.
So Pakistan lost 60,000 men.
Yes, you did, but we are losing that many probably every second, every 2 years. Right now, on a daily basis, we are receiving suicide attacks, terrorist attacks, attacks on our public properties and all that. Thanks to God, we are not doing that. We are not receiving that. So you're in a much better situation than we are. We are receiving a much heavier blunt of the war and all that. And of course, in that situation, Pakistan will be in a situation which can help more. Again, you are luckily for you, and we are absolutely happy for you, in a much peaceful environment. You succeeded in the Azab operation against the TTP and other elements that threaten your security. And with that experience and that background, in certainly the relationship that Pakistan has had with Taliban, we do believe that Pakistan could do more. But on our soil, anybody who threatens your security can never be our friend.
All right.
Can never be an asset for us. Terrorists cannot be anybody's asset.
How do you define this Taliban phenomenon? You call it a civil war, you call it insurgency. How do you define it?
It's not a civil war. It's the way sometimes it's described that it is a war of ethnicity. No, it's not. It's a war of politics. It's not. There is in Afghanistan a very legitimate government, a democratic government, in which if Taliban come, they could participate. They could be members of parliament. They could run for president. Our constitution does not.
I got your point, sir. But how do you define this phenomenon? How do you define Taliban movement or just Taliban? Who are these people?
Well, they're certainly insurgents, no doubt about it.
Insurgents.
They're armed opposition of the government, and they're fighting the Afghan state and the Afghan people.
But, for example, I give you an example. After 9/11, Pakistan faced the brunt, and certain militants who were then operating in Afghanistan, or the remnants of Taliban and other forces, they came to Pakistan in a large number. And we had this problem. For example, Mullah Fazlullah, who is believed to be operating from Afghanistan, he had his influence or stronghold in Swat.
Yes.
So they have their own parallel system over there. So what Pakistani authorities they did, they tried to convince the person to leave this act of violence and insurgency against the government. When he refused, they took action. They took him out and he fled. Right? So what is your approach? How long can you be offering Taliban that they should come and become part of the political process? Or what is the stage you will be reaching when you said there is no other choice but to take action?
You see, peace is the most noble thing. Peace is the most sensible thing. And that's why we indefinitely are open for peace. But we are also ready for war. And that's what we are engaging right now. That we are defending. Our national security forces are defending our territory, our country, our values, our government, our property, our roads, our schools. So that's what they are doing. But at the same time, of course, the door for peace has been opened. We haven't shut it down. We will not shut it down because we do believe that that's the right approach. We do hope that those who are using weapons for whatever purpose in destroying their own country will come to senses and finally accept that approach or that offer and opt for that. So we are keeping both. One out of no choice, and the other is absolutely peace is something that is the most desirable approach that the government has kept all along.
All right. We take a short break and then we come back. नाज़रीन एक छोटा सा वक्फा लेते हैं. वक्फे के बाद हाजिर होंगे. एम्बेसडर हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं. साथ रहिएगा.
Ay Karbala, ay Karbala, ay Karbala, ay Karbala, ay Karbala, ay Karbala. काफिर मुसलमान के प्यारे हैं हुसैन, शरफ़े नौ बशर के तारे हैं हुसैन. इंसान को बेदार कहो लेने दो, हर कौम पुकारेगी हमारे हैं हुसैन.
प्रोग्राम में एक बार फिर खुशामदीद नाज़रीन. हम बात कर रहे थे पाकिस्तान में तैनात अफगानिस्तान के एम्बेसडर उमर ज़कीवाल साहब से. मिस्टर एम्बेसडर, बिफोर टेकिंग ब्रेक यू वर डिस्कसिंग योर गवर्नमेंट's effort to bring Taliban to the negotiation table, or in case it doesn't happen then you are ready for taking action against them. Let me ask a question. There is a lot of buzz about the Haqqani network. What is the stance and viewpoint of your government? The Haqqani network and Taliban, you think they are the same or they are some separate entities in the people?
They are semi-related, but it's an organization that operates mostly on terrorist acts. For example, the May 31st suicide bombing that happened in Kabul that killed 150 people, mostly innocent people. So those type of attacks, which are again purely terrorist attacks mostly on civilians, is what defines the Haqqani.
But correct me if I'm wrong, that Siraj Haqqani is one of the senior leaders of Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan.
Yes, I said that there is a semi type of a relationship. Yes, he's part of the Taliban, but then from the mainstream Taliban,
so
he's separate.
You cannot isolate Haqqani network from Taliban.
Not completely, no. But they're different from the mainstream Taliban in their terrorist approach to the war.
But they are citizens of Afghanistan.
Of course.
So what made them took this part?
I don't know.
You are the ambassador and special representative.
No. I'm not again. I wish I could get into their brain and understand them and convince them not to be doing this. So we don't know what's making them.
Do you know or understand the reservations they might have against the government of yours in Afghanistan?
No matter what reservation you have in a war, the justification of suicide bombing is a tough one.
Exactly. Let me clarify, Mr. Ambassador.
Yes.
I'm not saying
that
any reservations they have, they provide them.
In no religion, if they're using Islam for it, no religion including Islam would justify suicide attacks of the type that they carry out.
I'm not saying that any reservation they might have could justify the kind of violence that's being happening in Afghanistan. But when you say that you are open for dialogue with Taliban were involved with certain violence and insurgency, of course, but again, you are open for negotiation.
Exactly.
So can we say that this option or deal is also available for Haqqani network?
It is indeed.
So have you ever tried to engage them?
Yes, indeed. If in the Murray talks, in July 2015, there was also a representative of the Haqqani network. The fact that we say that there are no preconditions from our side for peace talks keeps the door open to the Haqqani network as well.
So a hypothetical question. For example, today the Haqqani network says that, well, we are ready to abandon violence and whatever we are doing, we are ready to close that chapter. So what deal they might have? Would you be giving them amnesty or something?
Well, one element of the of a peace deal certainly would be amnesty, and that would apply to any group that joins peace.
So have this been formally communicated to those groups that you will be pardoned if you leave the option of violence?
You see, you do not disclose all the details in the offers of a peace deal before a peace talks begins. So it becomes part of the peace talks as to what type of amnesty the government offers, and of course that becomes a matter of give and take.
Exactly.
And like I said, of any peace deals, amnesty becomes an important part.
Exactly. So it's open for on the table. All right.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the relationship between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And not in terms of violence, but as a two sovereign countries.
Sure.
One problem the two countries having since long is the dispute on the border, which Pakistan doesn't recognize. Pakistan says, and it's an international opinion as well, this Durand line is an international boundary. But your government, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't recognize it. Is it true, sir?
We do not recognize it as an international border, but at the same time we call it a Durand line. That's what. But we have not challenged the authority of Pakistan on this side of Durand line. Since Pakistan inception, the Pakistani government is present on this side of Durand line. You had two wars with India in the 60s and 70s. And in both this war, the assurances were not sought from Pakistan, but in fact were offered by the Afghan government that Pakistan need not worry about its western border while it's engaging with. So if we were to take actions with respect to that claim, then we would have done it in the 1670. And there should be enough of assurances to Pakistan not to make as big an issue out of it as it has right now. You call it whatever you call it, and we call it whatever we call it.
What do you call it?
We call it Durand Line.
You call it Durand Line. So you don't recognize it, but at the same time you recognize the authority.
We haven't challenged the authority on this side.
The authority of Pakistan at this side, eastern side of the Durand Line. But I mean, I'm confused. So please help me out here. How do you define your position? At one hand, you are not recognizing the international border.
This is an emotional, ethnic issue that no government in Afghanistan would dare to touch it.
Okay. So it's more like a political problem.
It is more of an emotional, political issue that we will leave it to people. But at the same time, like I said, no government has challenged your authority on this side, and no government has actually carried out any sabotage activities on this side.
That's why I took up this issue with you is because Afghanistan government, it accuses Pakistan most of the time that there is a cross-border terrorism. People are freely operating from Pakistani territory and freely coming and going to Afghanistan and conducting their illegal or terrorist activities. When Pakistani government decide to man this Durand Line, mine it, or maybe build a fence over there, so there is certainly objection from Afghanistan side. So at one hand, you are blaming Pakistan for cross-border terrorism. On the other hand, when Pakistan tries to do something positive to control that so-called cross-border terrorism, so why the objection?
First of all, we do not believe that their response to this action responds to the issue. That's the issue we have with Pakistan with respect to its policy. Terrorism jointly would be dealt with in a more effective way if we have the policies in place in Pakistan. They support peace and stability in our country. They suppresses whatever insurgency from this side threatens our security. For example, Taliban leadership, till very recently, I don't know now, they operated freely out of Quetta. So that means the Pakistani policy allowed for that operation.
Pakistan always denied.
Well, but the truth is to the contrary. Or the Haqqani network, the leadership operated freely out of Pakistan. So that's a policy that we have issue with. It's not the issue with Durand Line or border, but with this policy. Now let me finish. Sure. Let me finish. At the same time, a more positive, cordial, closer relationship requires there is unhindered interaction between the two people, particularly if these people belong to the same ethnicity, the same languages, the same tribes. There are relations between them, and that is how it has been the people on both sides of the Durand. So they are fencing them, separating people now.
That's not working for the last 2 decades, sir. Forgive me. That's not working.
What is not working, this thing is not, what is not working for the past 2 decades?
Because this sort of allegation and counter-allegation, both countries are blaming each other for cross-border terrorism.
Actions have not been taken, that's what's not working.
So that
policies have not changed, that's what's not working.
This is exactly my point, that you blame Pakistan, Pakistan blames your government, or governments, the previous governments. And why? Because there are people or elements which are moving and
that is not the core. The core is the reason there is blame and counter blame is the policies. You change the policies, the blame will go away.
All right. You make a serious allegation, Mr. Ambassador, that Taliban Shura, the so-called Quetta Shura, were operating from this city in Balochistan, and you said that, well, you knew at some point in time that it was happening. And
it's not an allegation. It's not an allegation. It's no longer even a news that they did operate out of Quetta. It was It is an established fact.
I mean, I only read unconfirmed newspaper reports.
Yes, but it's been more than factual.
Actually, never accepted by the Pakistani authorities.
Well,
or the Taliban
you
authorities.
sometimes read between the lines somewhere. There's been some acknowledgement, and you take that acknowledgement, and you know, there is something to it there.
And you're saying that you don't have the information that what is happening exactly at the moment. That
You see, right now, there is, like I said, I don't have updated information, but like I said, yes, I do have information. They did operate out of Pakistan.
They did. All right. How do you? So first, let me finish this cross-border terrorism and issue. So when Pakistani government it says that we would fence or mine the border.
Yes.
You think it would help controlling this so-called cross-border terrorism?
Not at all. Not at all.
Why not, sir?
The core is the policies, my brother. You see, it's not when I said that if there is a Taliban leadership that is tolerated in Quetta, and then you say, well, I'm closing the border, mining the border, I believe that more if you first deal with the office in Quetta. You see what I mean? Then I would believe that, look, that is a serious thing. But I do believe that if this is dealt with, we don't even need that. That will be there. What we need is, we need to turn, my brother, this Duran line or the people that who live, a line of instructions, a line of relationships, as it has been for thousands of years. We would not want to create separation between this side and that side.
So don't you
that's not going to help. That's not going to help.
I think if it happens,
this is going to create more resentment on that side and more resentment on that side.
All right. If you soften the border, if you give people access, don't you think that the people like Mullah Fazlullah will have a free ride coming from Afghanistan, attacking Pakistani people and going back there to the safe havens?
Well, Mullah Fazlullah did not, when he started, he didn't start out of Afghanistan. He started out of Pakistan.
And now he has a safe haven in your country, Mr.
Well, if he's on that side, it's not that we've invited him. You didn't kill him, you pushed him onto the other side. And he's hiding somewhere there. And we hope we get to a situation where he's eliminated. And we get to a situation where the insurgents on this side are eliminated and their hideouts are eliminated, and we will have a perfectly peaceful relationship and peaceful environment.
So can we believe that Mullah Fazlullah might be, not I'm saying categorically, might be in the territory not under the control of the Afghan government?
Yes, there's a possibility, as there was a possibility with other TTP leaders who were eliminated.
So you think that this mining and fencing would not work, but resentment on the both sides, you think, but Pakistani government is independent and sovereign, so as the Afghan government. So whatever Pakistani government decides in better and best interest of its security and the people, it would do it. So Pakistani government does it unilaterally, so Afghanistan technically, legally would not have any objection or claim on that.
Unilateral actions on areas which have such close links have never been productive. They've been counterproductive. Look at the history. And that's why when we carry out activities on such a line, it has to have full cooperation from both sides, full understanding from both sides.
Right, but on the western side of Durand Line, your government, your territory, if you do any action, if you take any action, whether you build a fence or you provide more manpower to the border security forces, so the Pakistani government won't have any claim because it's your territory.
It's not the claim issue, my brother. It's what's productive and what's not productive. There has been on such a line, historically, if you look at it, there was cooperation in understanding, and there has to be cooperation in understanding. That was the norm, and that norm needs to be adhered to.
Exactly. But at the same time, if you think that this is what in the best interest of the people and the security of Afghanistan, your government would definitely be taking that step in the larger interest of your people and
but we do believe that it's not productive. So we're going now in a circular discussion here.
Exactly. But at the same time, the Pakistani government would not have any objection. Why? Because it's your territory.
We do have objection, my brother. Like I said, we are going in here in a circular discussion. We have objection because we believe it's counterproductive and has consequences for us.
So why don't you categorically admit that you don't recognize it and it's open for discussion and negotiation? This should be one of the Pakistani government.
I do leave it at what I gave you before.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of minutes left. So when we talk about this regional cooperation,
yes,
and recently Pakistan and China they signed an agreement, and this Pak-China economic corridor is going to be a game changer. And one thing which is very important, the inclusion of the neighboring countries, like China and Pakistan, they offered India to become part of the CPAC, but India refused because it believed that CPAC is coming from a disputed territory according to India. So how would you be interested in people to become part of that project and share the?
We are very interested.
Have you discussed this idea?
Of course.
At what level, sir?
At the highest possible level. CPAC is a project that we do believe that benefits not only you, its extension will definitely benefit Afghanistan, and that's precisely what we should be discussing. That's precisely the type of thing that we should be cooperating on. CPAC, the value of CPAC will go up tenfold if it is extended to Central Asia. And the only way is Afghanistan. The future of Afghanistan and Pakistan is in greater economic integration, my brother, in realizing the potential of those. And if we give more focus on that, then I tell you these other issues will become non-issues. And that is where we should be focusing. And that is what requires stability and peace. And that's why we should be supporting peace and stability. The policies that are based on the assessment of threats or designed from the angle of threats, as they are, we believe, in Pakistan, are counterproductive. The policies that come from the angles of opportunities are the policies that will be win-win situation for both and will guide us in a direction that your people will benefit from and our people will benefit from.
So these greater economic cooperation would certainly, reduces the threat level and improve the perception between the two countries.
Absolutely. We need to, and that's why, my brother, the spin thing is not the solution. When we are talking about economic integration, the connectivity.
So you want me to enter that circle again?
But that's why. Our people need to interact more. We have to have more trade routes. We need to have more. Your trade to Afghanistan.
It has to be controlled and regulated, Mr. Ambassador. It have a trade route. Should it be open for the terrorists and militants or insurgents from any side?
Of course they have to be regulated. And we are not against it. So trade will have to be regulated. Otherwise you will not be collecting revenues and we will not be collecting revenues. But we need to focus on that, and that's why we need to be focusing on.
All right. One last question, Mr. Ambassador. You think the time has come for the foreign forces which are present at the moment in Afghanistan to leave up to the people and the government and the forces of Afghanistan?
The time will come as soon as we have the belief that peace is returning to our country. And the sooner it is, the better for us. Because we do not want to be dependent on foreign forces. We want to be dependent on our own forces. We don't want the foreign forces to be operating in our country. We want foreigners to come and be investing in our country, to be visiting as tourists. And that's what we want. That's what the desire of the country is. And that's what we need help with. To help with security and stability, to allow the foreign forces to leave. As soon as the security returns, the sooner the foreign forces will have to go.
Have you defined any timeline that how much time more needed for these forces to stay and
peace is the timeline. Stability and peace is the timeline.
And so that's open-ended.
Absolutely. Open-ended, and I hope that it's close-ended in the sense that peace returns and stability returns sooner than later.
But don't you think that these presence of those forces is repealing the people like Taliban to come and sit with your true representative, democratically elected representative, because they believe as far as the foreign forces are there won't be any peace deal?
No. They say that their excuse for fighting is the presence of foreign forces. But when foreign forces started to withdraw from 130,000 to 10,000, they came in, even 10,000 were to withdraw totally by the end of 2016. Instead of Taliban abandoning fight, they increased their fight. So that was a false claim. And now what we are saying is the pretext on which the foreign forces in Afghanistan is insecurity, instability is its right pretext. And that's why if Taliban did really want foreign forces to leave, then they should diminish violence and ask for peace, so that we jointly ask foreign forces respectfully to leave Afghanistan.
So one last question. Although your government, not your government, the previous regimes, they might have committed some mistake. Pakistani regimes, they might have committed some mistake vis-a-vis situation in Afghanistan. Do you think that international powers like United States of America and Russia, they were equally responsible what the people of Afghanistan are bearing these days?
Certainly, there is responsibility that falls on the shoulders of the U.S. There's responsibility that falls on the shoulders of other powers, particularly Russia as well.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for your time.
Thank you.
उमर ज़कीवाल अफगानिस्तान के एम्बेसडर पाकिस्तान में तैनात उनसे गुफ्तगू कर रहे थे और कई इश्यूज पर बात हुई। प्रोग्राम का वक्त खत्म हो गया, इजाज़त दीजिए, खुदा हाफिज़।